Dave Haigh became acquainted with Mike Boon back in 1963. How did you meet him, Dave?
Well, I was only a teenager, probably 19 I guess, and I was staying at the old Bradford Pothole Club dump, which was in a stable behind the Flying Horseshoes at Clapham. We'd had a few beers, so I was fast asleep, and I heard this, suddenly woke up with this voice saying, "Pierce, you bastard! Pierce, you bastard! Pierce, you're a bastard!" And obviously somebody having nightmares who I didn't know. Anyway, we woke up in the morning, and sure enough, Mike Boon had arrived from Mendip and decided to come and live up north. So he regaled us with stories of the reason for the nightmare was because he'd come back from the Gouffre Berger, having a really hard time under the hard taskmaster of Ken Pierce, and he'd been driving him for days and days underground, and consequently it had left a real bad mark on Mike. And he showed us his knees were swelled up like grapefruits, you know, huge great gouges and all, festering and awful, and he had to get them soon attended to. So all those young teenagers were sat around thinking, this is wonderful, what a hard guy this is. much different caver to what we are. However, he got over his bad knees, and he teamed up with Pete Livesey, and they started pushing the boundaries of caving in Yorkshire. Really, Penigent Pot and Mossdale. They were really hard guys, way out of our young lads and my friends' league, really. He got a job cave guiding at Ingleborough Cave, and he lived at Bob Leakey's at Giggleswick, and while he was there, he had no car. He never did have a car as far as I remember. He eventually did get a butcher's bike, but initially he had a pair of Tough shoes, because he realised that Tough shoes had this offer on that if you wore them out in 6 months they'd give you a free pair. Well, Mike had 3 pairs in 18 months, walking to the cave and back in and out the cave, going caving at them, and then they withdrew the offer. He did pretty well before he started on his butcher's bike. He was a great guy. I liked him. It was fun. He was fun to be with. Really cheeky sort of smile, and he lived on his wits, which I liked. He soon after he arrived at the dump, we used to have a communal stew sometimes, and Mike found an onion that somebody had left and announced, "I've got an onion. How about having a communal dump stew?" It's absolutely typical of him, and even today people in our club are still talking about that expression.
I have heard that people say, "I've got a potato, let's have a dump stew."
Yeah,
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 it still lives on.
It still lives on.
Yeah,
the same.
So the Bradford must have moved to this place at Brackham soon after Mike's arrival from down south.
Yeah, yes, that's true. We did. We bought this place, and Mike actually used this very library itself. He used to like writing poetry. So it's surprising people, you know, big hard guy, but he absolutely adored writing poetry, and he did write a lot in his lifetime. And he wrote lots of articles, and he wrote 2 books on caving as well, 2 very good books. But yes, we arrived here, and now we could play out on Penigent instead of playing out on Ingleborough. So one weekend, Pete Livesey decided that he wanted to go to Antler Hole over at Fountains Fell, and he wanted to explore it by free diving. Would I go with him and hold the line? And the poison chalice I fell for. So he and I both walked over there one winter's day, and Pete in his wetsuit, and me in my old pair of grots with my knees sticking out, and an old sweater, and he plunked me in the sump in Antler Hole up to my neck, and said, and hold that line, and he tied on, and he said, "I'm going to explore and see what happens, and when you feel 3 tugs, pull me back." So I stood there everything went quiet eventually, and I'm bloody freezing cold. I'm starting to shiver, and it seems like an absolute eternity, and then the pulls came, and I'm pulling Pete back, and he suddenly arrived, and yes, I think it might go. I got to an air bell, and I thought I might be able to get further, but anyway, I couldn't. And he said, "What's the matter with you?" I said, "I'm bloody freezing, let's get out of here." Anyway, we got out into the winter sunshine, and of course my knees were absolutely blue, and I realised I was actually starting to suffer with hypothermia. And then Mike arrived, Mike Boon arrived, and how's things going then, chaps? And he says, bloody hell, I've never seen anything like that, Dave. And I could see the look of horror on his face. And I thought, yeah, this is a hard guy that's quite sympathetic really. He said, come on, get walking, I must get you walking. And he's massaging my knees and getting some circulation back in them, you know. It was really good. He walked me around for a while, and he said, have you had anything to eat? I said, no, we haven't had time, like, Pete dragged me over here. So he said, yeah, have this banana he produced. I don't know where he got it from, but for Mike to let go of his treasured banana was really something, and I've never forgotten that. That's really nice. So we're back to the dump, and we had something to eat, and we recovered. And that evening we were in the Haigh Bridge, and we were all, Pete and Mike and I, having a few beers, and I'm sort of getting a bit pissed and gobbing off about, well, if I had a wetsuit, I would have been quite so soft, really. And it was like, I was obviously feeling the pinch a bit. I knew I wasn't in the league of these two, but I was trying to justify why I was so soft. I think if I had a wetsuit, I'd have probably been just as good. I'd have been as fresh as Pete, probably. So anyway, we set off back to the dump, and Mike said, oh, I'm going to walk back up the river from the Haigh Bridge, and I'll swim across when when I get near the dump. So we said, oh, all right then. So set off, me and Pete. We got to the dump, and 10 minutes later, Mike walks in, dripping bloody wet, ice forming on his clothes, and he walked up and he swam across the river, and he made his point. I didn't have to say anything else. I realised what he was saying, and he said, stripped all his gear off, and he said, with his usual smile, any tea going? No, that's really nice. I like the guy.
Wonderful story.
Yeah. Mike had a wicked sense of humour. Also, he didn't. I think he did about 2 years probably working at the cave, but then he got a job at ICI in Living Office Wits again in Huddersfield. He had no qualifications whatsoever. He got a job as a chemist, and I said to him, how do you manage that? How do you manage to bluff your way through? He said, oh, I just pour things into burettes and pipettes and test tubes, and it's easy. I was absolutely gobsmacked. Anyway, he lasted 3 months at that till they found him out, and he got a job as a bus conductor after that. But he didn't last too long with it as a bus conductor, because he couldn't take money off the young people, and he couldn't take money off the old people, and he couldn't take money off the poor people, so he never had any fares in his satchel, so he got fired from that as well. Anyway, he teamed up with Dave Cobley. I think he was living at Dave Cobley's house. Dave Cobley, the famous climber, Everest climber. And I think they both started off then as student teachers. So every Thursday night we used to go to Halifax Folk Club, and we'd plan and talk about what we're going to do at the weekend. A whole gang of us, really, in the BPC. And this particular weekend, we decided that we'd go to Huddersfield Folk Club, because that's where Mike was living with Cobley. And I don't know who else was there, but there were only 3 or 4 of us at Huddersfield Folk Club. And there was a turn booked. Anyway, we got there and it was absolutely packed, absolutely heaving. We were elbow to elbow, there was about 100 people in there. And it turned out to be a finger in the ear group, no instruments. And frankly, they were as boring as shit. And everybody you could see was getting just a little bit sort of bored of them. And we were talking quietly amongst ourselves, planning, as we usually do, what we're doing for the weekend. And all of a sudden, they stopped singing. And this guy pointed over to us and he said, when you stop talking, we'll carry on singing. And a sort of murmur went round the room. And Mike Boon immediately said, don't you worry about us, we won't disturb you, carry on. At that, the bouncer, Big Bill, well known, 6'6", hard as nails, scarred up, came passing, scattering people through the crowd. Right, you're going out, you are. You're going out. Mike said, I'm going nowhere. And he put his hands behind his back. And he said, you are. And he grabbed hold of his shoulder. I'll have you out now. Mike says, oh, you're just a big violent bully, Bill, aren't you? You're well known round these parts, you know. You're a big violent bully, that's what you are. Big Bill thrust his face within an inch of Mike's face and he said, you are going out, my friend, from here. Mike says, I am not. I am staying here. He said, look, your knuckles are going white, Bill. You're just a violent man. That's all you know. Mike nutted him. Sorry, Big Bill nutted Mike. That was awful. And Mike still had his hands behind his back, never flinched. The tears were going down his face. And he said, there you are, Bill. Just what I said. You're just a violent bully, aren't you? And he was absolutely defeated. Big Bill was so defeated. Everybody's listening and watching. And he was so defeated by the rhetoric that he started backing up and he said, well, now just watch it. Well, just watch it and keep quiet. And he backed off, scattering people again. And they started singing again. And Mike said, now where were we? Wonderful. Cool as a cucumber. Loved him to bits. And the next weekend we had another trip to the folk club, and then we had a party at Rod McGee's house afterwards. I think it was somebody's birthday. And a few of us got back to Rod McGee's house before the others, and there was me and Boon and Rod, one or two more, started making some sandwiches. And Mike suddenly realised that on the floor there was some kitty cat that had been left over from the cat's dinner, and an old monkey spoon in a dish. And he said, I'll make some sandwiches, some special ones for Pete when he comes. Pete lives there, that is. So he made these fancy looking sandwiches out the cat's dinner. And as soon as Pete came in through the door, Mike's, hiya Pete, have a sandwich. Oh, grand, oh, thanks Mike. And he grabbed them and started wolfing them down. And we were all falling down laughing. I said, Pete, don't eat them, it's a bloody cat's dinner. It's rubbish, not put them down. And he said, get off, no, I'm eating these, I'm having them. And he wolfed the whole bloody lot down. Of course, afterwards then he realised that he had eaten the cat's dinner. All too late. And I thought, oh, good one, Mike. But the following weekend we were all at the dump, and Pete got him back because Pete Livesey found a mouse in a trap at the dump. And Mike always had a pint of tea in the morning, and when he wasn't looking, Pete put the mouse in his tea, and it sank to the bottom. So we were all sat there, and oh no, and he started drinking his tea, and so we were all saying, don't drink it, Mike, there's a mouse in it. And he went, oh really? Yeah, oh really? So no, there is a mouse in it. Aye. And then Pete's bursting out laughing. He looked at Pete and he's still drinking it. Now he's thinking, there might be a mouse in it, but and then all of a sudden the mouse bobbed up on top of his teeth. And he sucked all the tea off and threw the mouse down the floor. That's the hard guy that he was.
Wonderful stories.
Yeah. I think I lost touch a bit with Mike after that, but I did hear that he'd found out that you could get a student grant for taking a degree in speleology at McMaster University in Canada. But you needed, I think he needed 3 A levels and 2 O levels, and he only had 1. So he took an extra A level in about 2 months and got it, and got the grant, and went doing what he wanted to do and getting paid for it and playing out. So, and after that, of course, his stories are legendary. I'm sure somebody else will be telling the camera about those.
Wonderful.
That's
Thank you very much, Dave. Wonderful to hear them stories.
Thanks, Fred. Thanks for listening. Cheers. Good old Mike Boon. I love him to bits. What fun he was.
Good night.
Mm.